On your morning wake up 1320 WILS, the idea of wanted posters being out there with mugshots, or back in the day when they did drawings pre-photograph, they're certainly old in the realm of law enforcement and helping to connect the public with people who might be on the loose to find them. Also, there was a certain amount of notoriety and shame that went along with being up at the post office or on a on a lamppost somewhere. The modern version of that is posting mugshots, sometimes from booking shots, online and giving people a chance to weigh in there. But what about when the police go the extra step, which is with some flippant wisecracks? In other words, shaming folks who have not had their day in court yet, not been convicted. Does that cross the line in 2017? Let's talk about this form of public humiliation with Dr. Alex Del Carmen, law enforcement specialist and head of the School of Criminology and Criminal Justice and Strategic Studies at Tarleton State University, back on the show. Good morning, Dr. Del Carmen.
Good morning.
What do you think? Good idea? Bad idea? Or can it be taken to extremes?
Yeah, well, it depends on who you ask. Like everything else in life, if you take it to the extreme, it can be harmful, and it actually has a very negative effect on what the original mission and objective was. In this particular case, it is perfectly legal for law enforcement to post a mugshot or, an arrest record of some sort on a website. That is within the legal parameters of law enforcement. All that they do is subject to public inquiry anyway. However, when they take it too far, it's when they characterize the information, when they shame the individual, they add adjectives and pronouns to an arrest record that are both unnecessary and carry the effect of that person basically not being able to get a job or being publicly shamed or being ridiculed at school and whatnot.
And at times they can do this for cases where the actual crime itself may be fairly insignificant in terms of one's record, but because of the circumstances around it, there may be something salacious or, frankly, funny, but it could cause them, like you said, problems down the road where the extra adjectives do end up being more than the actual criminal part.
Exactly, and at the end of the day, it's both unnecessary and insufficient to do that to another human being that has yet to be convicted. And keep in mind that just because you've been arrested, it doesn't mean that you've been convicted of that crime, right? So there are those circumstances when people get wrongfully accused of something that, that they haven't done. And as a result of that, they're going to go through this process of public shaming. You may remember the guy Richard Jewell back in the day of the Atlanta Olympics.
Atlanta, sure.
When he was actually, that's right, he was characterized as being a bad guy. There were live shots of the FBI coming into his house and retrieving his computer and whatnot, and we later found out that it wasn't him. How do you recover from that?
Well, even the language, and I blame, and I point to my own profession, blame media for poor headlines. I remember that. Police arrest Atlanta bomber. Well, police arrest a man. He is accused of being the Atlanta bomber. There's a difference. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, absolutely. And then, of course, if you've got somebody that, you test or you do a blood sample of, and you realize that person is twice the intoxication level of alcohol and can hardly walk, well, they're likely going to be convicted. And maybe this is their third offense. And so, I have no mercy on folks that endanger other people's lives that way. But at the same time, you've got individuals that are maybe teenagers or young adults that may steal a candy from a CVS or from a Walgreens. Are we really going to go that far to publicly shame this individual?
So it's if you would revert then to, I think, back to my youth. You'd revert back to the Sergeant Joe Friday of just sticking to the facts with the mugshot, the facts of the arrest, put it out there, and skip the hyperbole.
Absolutely, and at the end of the day, when you look at it from the standpoint of where we are in our society, what's next, right? So the question mark is, where are we going to go next? Most of law enforcement in the United States is in rural settings, small towns, where folks know each other. You realize you're going to have your mugshot show up on Facebook or Twitter at the local police department. It's going to have some serious negative ramifications for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. The people what happens when you see them at church next week? It's not going to be, you start, your life runs before your eyes. And there is, I agree that in some respects, having a degree of shame in our society keeps people on the straight and narrow, but the question is it right for those in position of authority and enforcing the law to be ratcheting up shame, as opposed to, you put it out there and let others, and I just wonder if there's in policing now, Dr. Del Carmen, with young policemen who come and policewomen who come in with a lot of social media background too, if they feel like to keep above the noise online, they've got to create some more noise, and that's part of the danger here.
Absolutely. And, police departments are finding themselves in predicaments where young 21, 22-year-old police officers are coming in and they're taking snapshots, they're taking video of a lot of instances, and then they're posting it on their personal accounts. So we've now developed for law enforcement, social media policies that they have in place, which are pretty strict, and they pretty much negate a police officer from engaging in that behavior when they are in fact on duty.
I've asked everybody, I'll put you on the spot here real quick before we let you go, because everybody involved that I've had on the last week or so with law enforcement, I've asked them about this, the case out of Minneapolis, what you see from that right now. The police chief has now resigned in Minneapolis. There's pressure on the mayor. The young Somali man has made a brief statement. He's an officer of 2 years standing, has a few things in his background that are a little bumpy since he's been a cop. Anything that strikes you about that, or is it a perfect storm of no good?
It's a perfect storm of no good, and then you add to that the fact that they didn't have their video cameras on when they were supposed to, and all of that. I mean, it's really a nightmare for law enforcement. They're rare cases, but obviously you have the tragic loss of human life, and they need to be held accountable, and we need to learn from it. There's no question.
Dr. Alex Del Carmen, our guest, law enforcement specialist and head of the School of Criminology, Criminal Justice, Strategic Studies, Tarleton State in Fort Worth. Dr. Del Carmen, thanks for being here again. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Morning Wake Up will continue. Interesting his take on that with Facebook, with Twitter, what cops are doing overall. Yeah, we're used to the mugshots. That's just, and the media gets them, and you run them, and, that's been going on for a while now. First it was on TV specifically, and then TV and online. Okay, but adding in the extra bit, does that need to be done? And does that maybe even hinder a case later? Because it could go the other way, even for prosecutors who are trying to prosecute, and maybe some of the information by police isn't particularly great that they put out there, or it ends up being grabbed by the other attorney, turned around on a jury, and the victim becomes, not the victim, but the perpetrator alleged gets more sympathy. I don't know. Just the facts would seem to suffice. Maybe not in 2017.